The 1978 film Midnight Express is often hailed as one of the most intense prison dramas of all time, but behind the gripping story lies a series of strange, controversial, and downright bizarre facts. From real-life discrepancies to political backlash, here's a deeper dive into the weird and little-known truths about this cinematic classic. 1. Based on a true story but it's not entirely true. Midnight Express is adapted from the book by Billy Hayes, a young American who was arrested in 1970 for attempting to smuggle hashish out of Turkey. While the core of the story is rooted in fact, the film takes major creative liberties. Much of the violence, cruelty, and even the escape sequence were fictionalized for dramatic effect. Hayes himself later said that while his time in prison was difficult, not all Turkish people were monsters, as portrayed in the film. 2. Oliver Stone won an Oscar and later apologized for the script. The film's screenplay, written by a then unknown Oliver Stone, earned him an Academy Award. However, Stone later acknowledged that his script portrayed Turkey unfairly, leaning heavily into stereotypes. In interviews, he admitted to manipulating facts to create a more emotional story, and in the early 2000s, he publicly apologized to the Turkish people for how their culture was demonized in the film. 3. Billy Hayes didn't kill anyone during his escape. One of the most shocking moments in the movie is Billy Hayes killing a sadistic prison guard before escaping. However, this never happened in real life. The real Hayes escaped from a low-security prison on Imrali Island by stealing a small boat and rowing to Greece. The filmmakers added the violent twist to give the film a climactic and satisfying Hollywood ending, which Hayes later criticized. 4. The film was shot in Malta, not Turkey. Due to the hostile response from the Turkish government, filming in Turkey was impossible. Instead, Midnight Express was shot on location in Malta, with makeshift prison sets built to resemble Turkish architecture. Turkish extras were not used, and many of the scenes were constructed from imagination rather than research, which added to the inaccuracy and controversy. 5. The movie sparked an international scandal. The film severely damaged Turkey's reputation on the global stage. Turkish officials accused the filmmakers of propaganda and cultural defamation, and the movie was banned in Turkey for decades. Even casual Turkish tourists were asked about Midnight Express when visiting Western countries. The film's impact went beyond Hollywood. It became a diplomatic issue. 6. Giorgio Moroder's electronic score was ahead of its time. The haunting, synth-driven score by Giorgio Moroder helped set the tone for the movie's raw emotional intensity. It was a bold departure from traditional orchestral soundtracks and won the Oscar for Best Original Score. This soundtrack later influenced electronic film scores for decades, long before the synth revival in modern cinema. 7. The title, Midnight Express, confused viewers. Many people mistakenly believe Midnight Express refers to a literal train, but in prison slang, it actually means to escape or to run away. This metaphorical title was taken directly from Billy Hayes' book, though it confused many audiences who expected a train-based narrative. There's no train involved in the plot whatsoever. 8. Billy Hayes loved Turkey despite the prison sentence. In a strange twist, the real Billy Hayes expressed deep admiration for Turkey, its culture, and even its people. He admitted to making a terrible mistake by smuggling drugs and has said that the film did not reflect his true feelings. He's returned to Turkey multiple times in recent years and even gave interviews on Turkish TV. His biggest regret was that the film fueled anti-Turkish sentiment he never intended. 9. Director Alan Parker had doubts about making the film. Alan Parker, who later directed classics like Fame and Pink Floyd, The Wall, was originally hesitant to take on such a dark, controversial project. The subject matter, political tension, and raw violence made studios and filmmakers nervous. But Parker ultimately believed in the project and turned it into a critical and box office hit despite all the risks. 10. The film was nearly shelved due to legal and political fears. Hollywood studios feared backlash and lawsuits due to the real-life nature of the story. There were also concerns about portraying a sovereign nation so negatively. Columbia Pictures stood firm, pushing the film to release despite intense opposition. Had the studio backed down, one of the most powerful prison dramas in cinematic history might have never seen the light of day. Movie camera. Final thoughts. Midnight Express remains a powerful and disturbing film, but it's also a case study in how creative liberty, cultural misunderstanding, and sensationalism can twist a true story. Both celebrated and criticized, it's a film that continues to spark debate even decades after its release.